Hey, I'm Mike O'Dad with USCCA, and I'm here today with Peter Diamond. Peter, thanks for coming. We're here at Range Los Angeles, and we are going to be going through the evolution of American firearms, right? Certainly not everything that's been produced by America, but some of the most defining firearms in the last century. Peter, why don't you tell me kind of what we're looking at right now?
Well, starting on one end and working down to the other. First one is a Brown Bess musket. Brown Bess was used during the French and Indian Wars and by the American Revolution by both sides, the British and the Americans. Fires a 73 caliber ball. Here for the military cartridge, they use a 69 caliber, and it's just smooth bore. It's just a piece of plumbing pipe effectively. And you would just pack it down and shoot. And the goal was to do one volley shot every 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Jeez.
That was the goal.
So no rifling, just ball goes straight out. It's about the size of a paintball.
Yeah, about the size of a paintball. Yeah, 6.69 caliber.
I think paintballs are 0.68, so it's just slightly bigger. Wow.
Just about the same.
Okay.
Although a lot heavier.
Yeah, much heavier.
And it is soft lead. You can actually just, even with your fingernail, you can see you can just.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
So when that would go in, it would cause some serious damage.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on. Trapdoor Springfield. This was after the Civil War. This was America's first, I guess, official cartridge. There were some during the Civil War, but this became the mainstay of the U.S. military from the post-Civil War all the way up to and used in the Spanish-American War by National Guard troops.
Wow.
Shoots a 45-70 cartridge. 45-70 means 45 caliber, 70 grains of black powder. 405 grain lead bullet. This is the cavalry carbine. This is similar to what Custer would have used at Little Bighorn.
What was the purpose? I mean, 405 grain is a massive bullet. What was the reason for having such a large bullet in a gun like this?
The reason all the militaries at the time, black powder was much less efficient than modern smokeless powders.
Okay.
So the problem is how do you get the stopping power?
Yeah.
Energy is mass times velocity squared. If you can't build velocity, you got to go to mass. The heavier weight, the 400 grain lead bullet, made up for lack of velocity. These move at about 1,000 to 1,100 feet per second. So overall, you're moving low and slow.
Yeah.
But it has an enormous amount of stopping power just because of the size of the bullet.
That is a lot. For those of you at home who don't really understand that, 415 grain, to put that in comparison, 115 grain is kind of your standard 9mm bullet. So this is almost 4 of those rounds packed into one. So that's a huge round. That's really cool. What about this one? Hey, I'm pausing the video right now to let you know about a free giveaway that USCCA has going on right now. Check out the link below for all the details, and let's get back to the video.
This is a Model 97 trench gun, another invention of John Browning, one of many. Was used originally in the Philippine insurrections, all the way through World War I, through World War II. They were still used even in Vietnam. It's a 5-shot tubular magazine. It has a hammer to fire, so you can actually be holding the trigger and pump and fire rounds.
You can slam fire it.
You can slam fire it.
Wow.
It was designed with that in mind. So popular. World War I, it was so devastating in the trenches that the Germans tried to get them outlawed by the Hague Convention, saying they were cruel and inhuman.
Interesting. The shotgun itself.
Yes, the use of it, because the British and the Germans and the French all used effectively hunting shotguns, but they just took them from civilians. So they had 2 barrels and not nearly as effective as a pump with 5. And
yeah.
So the Americans were considered bullies.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that too. As long as you're on the receiving, you're on the receiving end of it.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
And so this came with a bayonet as well.
Yeah, there was an 18-inch bayonet.
Wow.
That would attach to the front, because again, when you're clearing a trench, you have 5 shots, and then after that, you're
back to sword fighting.
Back to sword fighting.
That is one long blade there, and it would fix on the front.
It would have fixed right to the front, right there.
Wow.
So you'd have that.
That's a long barrel right there.
Yep. So the 20-inch barrel got another roughly 18 inches of bayonet.
Yeah. So, okay, you had mentioned this is a trench gun. I know what that is. You know what that is. For people at home, what is a trench gun? Why is it not just a shotgun?
Well, it is just a generic shotgun. So it's just a hammer-fired shotgun that John Bradley designed.
Okay.
They realized that it had a very strong military application. So what they did was they shortened the barrel to a 20-inch barrel, created this perforated guard over the top, which is also connects to the bayonet lug. So what it did was it stopped you if you grabbed it, the heat wouldn't burn your hand.
Okay.
So it was truly designed, this design came out to use in the trenches in World War I.
For close quarters
For
fighting.
close quarter fighting, for being able to grab it, for the mud and everything, for you having, while you want to ideally just hold the wood, you would grab the metal. So this adaptation was designed specifically for the trenches, was so effective, it continued on for another 50, 60 years.
Wow. So this was designed for World War I initially?
This actual design was designed for World War I. They took the existing 97s that they already had in the military and adapted them all with this heat shield for the trenches.
Wow. I find it interesting that a shotgun, even though modern shotguns are different, there's so many similarities today. Like the breacher shotgun I carried on my back, it was essentially this, no bayonet, sawed off here so that it's just a pistol grip because we didn't need the buttstock. But other than that, it's quite similar. There's no heat guard, but you could put one on, a rail accessory, and
the only difference between this one and most shotguns today is the hammer.
okay.
Is that it is hammer fired as opposed to most of them which have an internal. Even the U.S. military ones that you're using now have an internal.
Yeah.
That's really the only main difference. Other than that, it's technology has not advanced on a pump shotgun.
Yeah. Wow, that's really neat. And then this is the Garand.
M1 Garand let the U.S. enter World War II as the only country with a semi-auto loading main battle rifle for the majority of their troops.
Okay.
Yes, I know people are going to say we were still using 03 Springfields, and they're right, but we were the only ones. When everyone else had only bolt action and some semi-auto, we entered the war with a semi-automatic battle rifle. 30-06, 8 rounds in a clip. Clip would just drop in. When it was done, you would just stick another one in. Same round that the light machine gun used. So it was across the board.
Yeah.
Funny note, this at 9 pounds weighs the same as the Brown Bess at 9 pounds.
Really?
So the weight hadn't gotten any easier. You're still carrying about 10 pounds of rifle.
Yeah.
Until you get to a modern firearm.
It's still not that bad given it holds that many rounds, the size of the rounds, and if you look at a modern day machine gun, they're still much heavier than those. It's not too bad.
No, and it's balanced very well. You'll still find people shooting 1,000-yard competitions with Garands consistently, even with the original peep sights.
Yeah.
I'm not that good, but I can shoot 600 yards and hit steel with these easy.
Wow, iron sights.
Iron sight.
What do you know about the caliber 30-06 and why was this used as opposed to any other round?
30-06 came after the Spanish-American War. The Americans used something called the 30-40 Krag.
Okay.
The Krag was anemic at best. It was good, but everyone else was better, and we wanted to be better.
Okay.
So the 30-06 was originally invented for the 03 Springfield, which we used in World War I, and the Eddystones and all those.
Which was bolt action.
Bolt action rifle.
Yeah.
They found the stopping power to be fabulous. Better than the British 303, better than the German 8mm, better than the French 7.5. Effectively even better than what replaced it is a 308. When it came to stopping power, it had more stopping power and more accuracy over distance.
Yeah.
The problem was just the size and the weight. But it became the standard round because it met all the objectives that the Army Board asked for and more.
Okay.
And just became the standard round until the M14 was adopted in 308.
Yeah. Interesting. The M14, for people at home, that was a 308 round.
Yeah.
Was the M14 designed, like, was it designed out of this? Was it inspired by this, or was it a completely different
The
design?
M14 was designed out of the Garand. What they realized was what they really wanted was a magazine-fed, the Garand and magazine-fed.
Okay.
Because everyone else was moving toward a magazine feed. So effectively, the M14 was, and I'm bastardizing it, a modernized Garand into M14. I know someone's going to comment on that and say that I'm wrong, but there's a lot of similarities. The overall charging rod, everything,
action,
the gas system, the action, even the safety
Yeah.
used on it is the same as the M14 and even Ruger's Mini 14.
Yeah.
The modern Mini 14 uses the same,
Very similar.
very similar on everything about it. They just wanted a smaller, lighter round, so they went to the 308 because it still had almost the same amount of stopping power, but a lot lighter and easier to carry.
Yeah, even just the appearance, it looks so much like it. I'm not saying that is how they got it, but it looks like one would say, hey, this is a great rifle. How do we improve on it? Essentially just go off the same design.
Right, and like I said, the majority of it is, it's roughly the same design into a magazine fed. They improved the gas system a little bit, but roughly it's the same design.
Okay. And then moving into more modern. Obviously, most people at home know what this is, the M4. The predecessor to that was the M16.
Right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that evolved into this?
The almost identical in concept. The M16, you see the old Vietnam War movies, has that classic carry handle here.
Yeah.
The original M16 did not have the forward assist, but almost exactly the same. They shortened it. They've improved a lot of the internals, which you don't see. But from an external standpoint, the only big difference would be the missing carry handle and the little sights associated built into the carry handle and using the front sight.
Okay.
Other than that, there are lots of little differences on the inside, but none that are visually. You look at it, and if you had an M15 right here next to it, you could see one is the parent of the other.
Yeah. Well, if you look down the line, it essentially goes where we have a ball, then we have go into bullets, but they're all massive rounds, and then all of a sudden we go into a tiny round, half the size of a 9, like very, very small. What do you think that was about? Why did it go from these big stopping power bullets to just carry a whole bunch of tiny rounds?
You just answered it. Carry a whole bunch of tiny rounds. It's all logistics.
Okay.
It comes down to they did tests, and I guess some of the tests you can read, and everyone has different opinions. And so whatever I say, someone's going to argue with.
Yeah. Well, it's the internet. Everyone will argue.
Everyone will argue and say I'm wrong on something. Effectively, carrying 8 of these is the same as carrying 30 of rounds for here.
Yeah.
So it just became a matter of volume.
Yeah.
You can do. There's people who say you didn't need that much stopping power. There are people who say the M16 had the stopping power. The 5.56 is enough stopping power. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to shoot through? How far are you shooting? Where this will shoot 1,000 yards. Troops were no longer shooting at 1,000 yards. You were shooting at a couple hundred. Did you need that much force and stopping power? So the Army and its infinite wisdom decided to go to the 5.56, and now they've changed it again. So
Yeah. It's going to a bigger bullet.
it's going back to a 30 caliber bullet.
Yeah. I think the one commonality I see with all of these weapons, starting from the very beginning to the end, is, necessity is the mother of all invention. And you really see it here, right? You see the original design. We have to launch a projectile and kill somebody. So it's the basic, we need a tube and we need an explosion. And that's about as basic as it gets. And then I know there were improvements on that, such as trying to get rifling into the barrel.
Yeah, the Civil War had rifling in the barrels.
Yeah. But you can see, okay, that was the initial, call it the Mark 1 odd 0, or the original plan. And then you go, okay, well, loading seemed to be the biggest factor. Having 20 seconds loading time meant I'm going to get 1 to 2 shots off, and then we're fighting with our hands. So going into, we're conquering lands on our soil, and we have people on horseback riding fast. We need to load faster. And then we're coming over here, and it's the need is we're in the trenches, these big, longer guns that fire a couple rounds. It's not cutting it. We need something where I can turn around a corner and just spray a whole lot and have a bayonet. Like, just complete needs of the warfighter at the time. Going into longer ranges, right? Fighting across long distances. I now need a gun that can reach out and touch somebody accurately from 1,000 yards, maybe behind a trench or behind cover. And then, moving into this, the idea that, well, I can effectively eliminate a threat with a smaller bullet and carry more of them. In the jungle, you have a bunch of concealments, but you don't have a bunch of cover necessarily. It's all leaves. And so if I can cover fire with 1,000 rounds versus 8 rounds, we're able to maneuver. So it's really neat just to see the evolution of like the need of the warfighter right here in gun format.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you look at it, you're starting with, the birth of the nation. This is what made America America.
Yeah.
Starting with that, and it was necessity, and the other side was armed just as well as us, but they were using the exact same weapon. Then you moved into, our manifest destiny, shore to shore, New York to California, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And the troops after the Civil War, this is what they were using. And this became a single shot instead of, like you said, loading. Then it was a 5-shot shotgun, which, brought us noticed in World War I because nobody had something like this in the trenches.
Yeah.
It was the start of, American dominance on the world stage, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Moving into World War II, where we became the senior guy on the world stage. Right, wrong, good, bad, America was here to stay, and we were stepping out from our isolationist policies and taking our spot on the world stage. And this, through all of World War II and through our allies in Greece and everywhere else using in the 50s fighting the communists, that was this was it. Moving into where we are today, where we're still projecting, peace and freedom across the world globe, and this is what we're using.
Yeah. It's pretty wild of all the years, how long the musket lasted, how long, let's say the shotgun, the Garand, the M4, how long each one lasted. Well, the shotgun has lasted, how old is this again?
This is from World War I. This is a World War I shotgun. But it was invented in 1897.
So the shotgun is, what is that, 70, 80, 90, almost 100 years old?
Over 100 years old, that one.
And it's still very similar in design.
Yeah.
The musket's gone away, in essence, but and portions of this have gone away. But call this from the 70s, so this is about 50 years, and we're still using this around the world, just changing variations, longer barrel, shorter barrel, adding optics, adding different calibers.
Yeah, different grips, different optics, different setup, but the frame is roughly the same as the M16 that was adopted for Vietnam.
Yeah. I have this same gun in 9mm, 5.56. I have this gun in a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I know they make all kinds of other calibers, but just you take the same platform and now you just change the caliber. It's super versatile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a magazine-fed one in bolt action in 22-250. So yes,
Wow.
You can adapt it, and that's built on an AR-10 platform, but the same concept.
Okay.
You can use it for just about anything.
So I guess the big question I have for you, Peter, all these guns, they've defined, American history. You have to go into battle. Which one are you taking with you?
The Garand, without a doubt.
Okay.
Patton called it the best battle rifle of all time, and it probably still is. As long as you're willing to carry all that extra ammunition and weight, there's nothing better in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that round.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. And with 4th of July coming up, I want you guys all at home to think about this. These weapons from the start of our history to the current state of our nation, these weapons have helped shape our freedoms and helped shape our country. No matter what technological advances we have, from bigger calibers to shorter rifles to bayonets, none of this matters. What matters is the men and women behind these weapons and the bravery that they show to protect our freedoms. I want to thank them all for their service. On behalf of myself, Peter, and USCCA, we appreciate you guys and thank you. And if you guys like what you saw, let us know in the comments section. We would love to hear your own personal preference of which gun would you take into combat. We're gonna get a lot of heat in the comments section. And as well, if you know about these guns, let us know. Or if maybe there's a round and a weapon that you would prefer that's not showing, let us know. And just to let you guys know, we are gonna be shooting and testing out all of these guns in another video that's gonna be coming out, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And with 4th of July, I wanna say happy 4th to all out there. As always, continue training because that's how we move forward and that's how we progress.